Hi, I'm Mary Greendale, and this is Just Thinking. Welcome to our annual series of interviews of candidates for local government offices. The town election is May 20th. We have contests for select board between a challenger and an incumbent. For park commission, we have 4 candidates for 2 open seats. For school committee, we have 4 candidates for 2 seats with 1 incumbent. And for library trustees, we have 4 candidates for 2 seats. 2 candidates are incumbents, but 1 incumbent declined to be interviewed. That was an incumbent for the library. I am interviewing all these candidates. I have prepared specific questions for each board or committee. Each candidate will respond to the same questions for that office in their interview. I ask a few different questions of incumbents to reflect their years of service. Voters can compare the candidates' responses. The interviews are done one at a time and will be posted when all the candidates for an office have been interviewed. My goal is to have the videos run 30 minutes, except maybe longer for school committee. I had a lot of questions. The videos will be available on HCAP's website, on HCAP's YouTube channel, and on our Facebook page. Let's get started. And now let's interview Tracy Floeckher, who is a candidate for the school committee. Hi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Before I begin the questions, I want to remind viewers that the school committee has 3 very specific areas of responsibility under state law, and that is the hiring and firing of the superintendent, the policies, and the budget. The school committee does not manage the operation of the schools. That is entirely up to the school superintendent, which is why the hiring and firing element is critical in terms of the school committee. So, Tracy, why are you running, and is there a particular topic or issue that motivated you to do so this year?
I have 5 particular topics that have motivated me to run, particularly the 5 little humans that I have at home. As a mom of 5, I find that I am very invested in their education and making sure that they are in a school district that is the highest quality it can possibly be, and I'd like to be a voice in helping those structures stay in place so that my kids have, and all the kids of Holliston, have great success in our schools.
Do you have children in each of those levels?
At the moment, I do not have anyone at Miller, but next year we will have students at every school.
Oh, okay, that could be helpful.
Yes, I hope so.
What differentiates you from other candidates? Do you have a unique experience or education that you bring to this?
I think the fact that I'm a parent of 5, and you beat me to the punchline there with that next year we will have students in every school, I think that perspective gives me a unique ability of making decisions that, and looking at decisions that will affect all of our students and not just one particular area. Aside from that, I do have an education degree from Boston College, both my bachelor's and master's degree, and I'm an educator. I've been a teacher for 20 years in the Framingham public school system. 17 of those years were at the high school level, and then I have been the past 3 years at the middle school level in a mental health support program. So I think if you put those 2 things together, the fact that I can think like a parent and an educator when looking at decisions that are affecting our schools, I think that sets me apart.
Okay. What will be your priorities?
I think I would like to focus on realistic priorities. I've been in public education long enough to know that change is not always quick, and that even when change happens, it takes a long time to fully implement and see the results of those changes. So 3 things I would like to work on is first, strengthening the relationships between our teachers and our school committee. I think the events of the past couple years have caused some strain on that, and I would like to work to be a bridge to strengthen those relationships, because ultimately we are all working together. I have so much to learn, still learn, even after 20 years, from the teachers in Holliston, and I would like to work with them to see what they need and how we can support them. I would also like to work on increasing community involvement and awareness. I think there is a level of transparency that the current school committee is attempting, but I think there are some gaps in how that is actually being delivered to the community at large and the way in which we are sharing some of that information. And then I would also like to continue to work with leadership to make sure that we are prioritizing high quality instruction and diverse instruction that meets the needs of all of our students.
Okay, one thing that I want to mention, I mentioned just this to the other candidate, when we talk about the relationship between school teachers and school committee members, sometimes you need to be aware of whatever the contract agreements are, whatever the protocols are, and I don't know what they are, but just as a suggestion to any of the candidates, examine what that is for yourself. How would you determine your budget priorities? And needless to say, there will always be budgets that are a problem. You know, you're never going to have enough money.
Of course, of course. I think the budget is such a complicated and nuanced beast unto itself. And as we are looking forward, I think my priority will always be on our students and what programs they need to be as successful as possible, and also what we need to do to make sure that our budget focuses on keeping teacher salaries competitive. We have a lot of great talent in town, and there's a lot of talent that we would like to bring in, but if we don't have the money to make it favorable, we're not going to be able to do that. I think I would like to I can't promise anything, obviously, right, but I would like to promise that I can look at decisions that I'll make balanced and rational choices with the information that we have at the time. And that will change, especially over the next few years with fluctuations in funding over the federal level. But I promise I will do the best I can.
Okay. In your opinion, how is the school district doing? And if you can relate to at least two of the three levels, are we competitive? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses?
I think Holliston Public Schools, teachers, administrators, staff, they are working really hard. I think we are competitive to a point. And then the dropping of our ratings in the state level have definitely been concerning. But I think at the heart of it, our teachers are doing some great things. I love knowing that my children love going to school, that they feel supported by their teachers, they love their teachers. I'm a big fan of the social emotional curriculum that has been implemented across all grade levels. I think the PBIS incentive system that has been put in place.
Say that again.
Positive behavior, and I'm drawing a blank on the I.
Incentive, you said.
Incentive, yes, thank you. Okay. Where we're encouraging good behaviors. So I know at the elementary level they use the care cards. And one of my kids came home yesterday with a sheet, and she was so proud she'd earned 100, and so there was additional things she got. So I think those systems that look at the whole child and support them are fabulous. So with that regard, think is great. I think there's always room for improvement, for sure. I think we do need to look at a lot of our special ed programs and why the students are opting out and choosing out-of-district placements. What's going on there? I think we need to look at why some of our even higher achieving students are opting for private school rather than public school. So there are a lot of questions, and I think we should continue to look from within to figure out what we can do to do better, but I know everyone's working really hard.
Okay. What do you see as the greatest challenge facing the district in the next, in the immediate term, and then during that 3-year period that you would serve?
I think one of our greatest challenges is to continue to remember that despite the chaos that might be happening, our children should be our priority, and really focusing on what services and structures our kids need and what supports we can provide them. Unfortunately, with the uncertainty of the Department of Education at this time and what that funding might look like, I hope that we can continue to remember our duty to support our children and in their diverse needs.
Okay. What do you think 3 years down the road, do you see anything that might change either locally or otherwise in education? That's probably a terribly unfair, but 3 years is not all that long in some ways.
Just want to make sure I understand the question. So you're like, what do I see as the biggest?
Yeah, the challenges over the next 3 years. Okay, it's going to be the budget. It's always going to be the budget, and then
I would definitely say budget would be my first thing that I think is going to be an issue, and then I also think one of the focus on diversity, inclusion, and equity is huge, and I think that in our current time is going to be something that the school district is going to need to really make sure we prioritize.
Okay. Would you say that you are satisfied with the direction the school committee has operated in the past 5 years? If no, how would you suggest change? And if yes, what have you liked?
Okay, I'm going to say yes and no. Overall, I think I like to approach most things that people are doing the best they can and working with the best interests of the population they're trying to serve. Are there things that can be improved? Absolutely. One of those, I do feel that there is improvement, room for improvement with the transparency. I think decisions get made perhaps behind closed doors or in sessions that might not be able to be public, which I do understand, but the way in which that information is shared is not always clear to the public, and that's tough, and that's hard to continue to get support when it feels like things are shrouded in some way. I am satisfied that they are making changes, though. I think it's great that they have combined the Placentino and Miller start times. On a personal level, having my 3 little ones all go on the bus at the same time is going to be fabulous for our mornings. I also have spoken out a couple times about the need for the high school schedule change. And I'm really glad that there was an agreement finally made to make that happen. I think our work with equity and services for our kids to now allow them to be able to take classes, and our kids can do it, our teachers can do it. I'm really excited that that change has happened. And I'm also excited that they have supported the commitment to DEI initiatives as a town and as a school committee.
Okay. Interesting. Here we are at out-of-district placements of students, which typically cost us more than teaching a child in town. And the number of the requests for out-of-district placement have been on the rise. So what do you think is the reason for that increase? And do you see that, what do you think the problem is? And what would you as a school committee member do to try to ferret that out, figure out what is going on?
I do see it as concerning that our numbers are so high for out-of-district placements, and I'm not 100% sure where that narrative is coming from. I know as a parent, I belong to, I follow a lot of the Facebook pages in town, and special ed does come up fairly often. And I would like to look at what that narrative is. Are our services lacking? Are there programs that other districts do have? Or have we sort of gotten a bad name that we need to work on figuring out what it is that families need directly from our schools? I think what I would hope to do personally is open that line of communication a little bit more, talk to the families directly. Is there a program that another district offers that we don't? Or is it they're just fed up with our, what is it? And I don't know the answer to that, but I would like to do some more research on that, because I think we have great special educators in district already, and using them and their abilities is something that we should definitely be utilizing within the district instead of paying other districts.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna expand on that just a little bit, just to ask you, how would you go about gathering the information to make any future change? What are the kinds of steps that you would take to bring something forward?
So I would like to reach out to the CPAC in town.
Okay, and when we do the acronym.
Sorry, I get so caught up in acronyms. I know.
Anyway, let's go.
Special Ed Parent Coalition?
Yeah, probably. It sounds good.
Yes, that's, I think, a place to start. I would also like to, I know obviously they can't share the direct names of families, the families that are vocal. And there's also a network of students that, of parents that are involved in other organizations in town that I would like to see just open that dialogue. As a parent right now, I think I am aware of some of the things that are happening in our schools, but certainly not all of them. And for students with high needs, that's a lens that I don't particularly have, and I would love to be able to communicate and figure out what we can do, because I don't know that there is like a hard and fast list of why and what the reasons are. So we can maybe look at what programs students are going to. If we're noticing a certain trend for students with certain diagnosis going to X, Y, and Z, what is it that those programs offer? Because the data of where they are going is something that the special ed department should have easy access to.
What about the kids that leave not because of special needs, but for curriculum issues, or they want computer science, in the case of my granddaughter, she left because she thought she wanted equine. Didn't end up that way, but whatever. What can you do? What would you want to evaluate? Or is that a concern for you? Maybe that hasn't bubbled up to being a concern, that kids are leaving for other curriculum reasons.
So it certainly is. When I look at the high school level, my daughter is a freshman currently, and I know she had a number of friends applying for out-of-district schooling. A lot of them were private, but even in some of the tech programs and the vocational programs, I do think they are great, and I would love to see more of those programs at our school. I'm not sure equine is one that we quite have the facility.
Can't have that one.
But there certainly are other programs that might be on a sort of smaller scale, vocational. I taught for a couple of years foods cooking class at the school, and that was a great, program for students who were involved in culinary arts. And so expanding that in sort of the basic curriculum that all students are allowed and giving them access and exposure to, I think would be great on a smaller scale.
One just interesting aside, but when kids ended up being they may have gone for equine or what other animal feature that they thought was their interest. Most of them didn't end up there, but one of the biggest attractions was the environmental sciences. And there's a big program there because they do have horticulture programs and that kind of thing. So there's a big following, let's say, for environmental science down there. I don't know what we do about environmental sciences here, to be perfectly honest. So you've already alluded to the question that I asked about the DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion. The President of the United States has called for renunciation of all references to DEI, and I know that locally we have already reaffirmed or recommitted to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, you have said that you support that, and that you would continue to take that position as a school committee member.
Yes, absolutely. I am proud of Holliston and our school committee and our community that we have made the commitment to continue to support our students. I am proud that our message is one of diversity. I love seeing the pride flag in some of our schools. I love that we are having a conversation and a dialogue around what we need to do to support all of our students, regardless of a myriad of factors that affect them. At the end of the day, they are our children, and our responsibility is to educate them to the best of our ability. So I 100% a continuation of those efforts.
Okay. So I personally don't have children in the schools at this time. I've had children and grandchildren in there. 2/3 of the households in Holliston don't have children in the schools. So we're sort of outsiders, we really don't know, truthfully, except for any effort that I make myself. There are a couple of things. There's a school committee newsletter now, so that's a little bit helpful, but that, and then an occasional report from the superintendent, just to give me the flavor of what's going on. So what do you think about that? What will you do to help with that?
So absolutely. I think that the involvement of all members of our community is essential. I think that regardless of whether or not people have students in the schools or any of the schools, they are able to recognize the importance of good schools on our town. And I would like to be able to highlight a bit more of the accomplishments of our students. Like you said, I feel like so much of the conversation focuses around some of the negative and problems we're having, that I know that our teachers and students are doing some fabulous projects on a small daily level, whether or not it's makerspace at the elementary levels, or the new field trips that they're going on at middle school. All of these things. High school has some great programs too. I don't want to leave them out. All of these things need to be shared, and the newsletter is fabulous, although I do wonder what other forms we could use to get that information out, because I know I get a lot of emails every day, and so it's not always easy to sort of digest. So whether or not that's speaking at town meeting, maybe a letter in or an update in some of our Holliston reporters, I would love to sort of see what we could do as a community to involve all of our members and give some sort of forum where they can find out what is happening on the good side of our schools.
A lot of these folks pay for the education, so besides just being a nice thing, may I say, I feel it's something of an obligation.
Yes, responsibility, for sure.
I would also put in a plug for the fact that in years past, and I really disapprove of the direction we've gone, it used to be that the school committee always made a presentation to town meeting, a full-blown presentation. Now, there was a lot of groaning and moaning that we knew it was going to take like 45 minutes, and okay, maybe it doesn't have to take 45 minutes. It was the superintendent and the school committee. Generally, the presentation was by the school committee members, and that felt useful to me because they were my peers, okay? I have no peer relationship with the superintendent. And it's something that I don't think I've mentioned to, to candidates that I've talked to this year, but I usually babble about it somewhere. Just that I think boards and committees should think about ways in which to use town meeting in the way that it was originally intended. Okay, it's now become, how much can we get in and through in one night so we don't have extra time? And while that may make things faster, it doesn't make it better in terms of communication. It destroys the communication. So anyway, that's my speech I get to make because I'm sitting on this side. Anyway, I'm sure you're aware of the discussions around the math curriculum. It's been a buzzword for the last, 2 years maybe. The de-leveling of math in the middle school results in students not being able to take some of the advanced classes, so that by the time they get to high school, they're not eligible for calculus. Or they're not getting calculus before they get out of high school. So when they get to college entry, it's like you're supposed to have calculus if you're trying to join this engineering program. So for those kids who can go through those levels from lower to higher, taking those levels out puts a demand on the teacher to meet everybody's individual needs. So I'd like to know how you feel about de-leveling, which is a word that somebody made up and didn't do a good job.
And now you use it way more than you ever thought you would, right?
Yeah, really.
I am very aware of it. I have a middle schooler currently who loves math and is on a trajectory to likely take some of those advanced classes. I understand the argument from an equity piece. As an educator who has worked in districts, in the district that has prioritized looking at students with different learning styles, whether or not that's, if they are from learning a second language, or if they have other factors that might be affecting their ability to access the math curriculum, accessing and allowing students to learn math where they're at is not something that a teacher can take lightly and just jump into. So by removing de-leveling, although it would be great to say that there's an equity piece, that all of our students, regardless of their level, is now having access to the same curriculum, that's a large burden to put on teachers without additional supports. And I don't think the conversation has focused enough on what that will look like in a classroom for our teachers that are now being met with the demands of trying to get our high-level students the curriculum they need, and the students who are struggling with basic math functions. So although I think we are on the right track for having these conversations and what we need to do to make sure that our students who are not necessarily in these high classes at the higher levels and higher numbers, I don't think de-leveling is going to give us the answer. It's not a magic wand that's going to allow our teachers to suddenly teach everyone the curriculum they have. That's not how it works. And I think until we have a better look at some of those alternatives, we need to keep those levels in place to make sure that our curriculum is giving all of our students the level of math that they need.
I'm glad that you mentioned that it's the equity piece, because there was an element of that was a little bit confusing to me before I started these interviews. So the equity piece is that because children that are more challenged by this, what is the disadvantage to them that there are higher levels available? How does that play as an inequitable?
I think students who are in certain marginalized groups are often not in those higher level classes for a variety of reasons that I think are systemic, to be honest, and beyond just what we are teaching in Holliston Public Schools. And so if we do not have students of color or students with certain language backgrounds in those high level classes, it's not that they're not capable, it's what our curriculum's not doing to allow them access to those materials. And so I think that's where the equity piece comes in, where we aren't looking at if a student is capable of doing language in their native language, math rather, in their native language, but when they get here and they can't translate that, then we're putting them at lower levels. So that's not where they're at, that's our curriculum, that's our system that we need to work on. So I think that's part of where the equity piece comes in, is what are we doing to make sure that we are allowing all of our students access to the curriculum that they need. Did that answer your question?
It does, it does. It just makes me wonder what other school districts do. So you have this high-functioning, math students who moves here and can't do the math, translate from his or her language into, isn't it conceivable just to help that student on a parallel track? In other words, provide additional. Why isn't the answer to provide additional services to those kids without interrupting the levels?
I think part of it is budget and teacher bandwidth. I mean, ideally that would be great, but to ask a teacher who has 25 students to now all of a sudden adapt that curriculum into perhaps, if we stick with the language example, a different language, that's a lot of work. I think there are strategies, and if you look at what some of the other towns are doing, there's some work with co-teaching, whether or not that's a special educator in a math class or an ESL second language teacher in those classes. I think there are programs that are at work trying to make these things happen, and I think Holliston does need to look at some of those, but to just take away the levels without doing the due diligence of all those other alternatives and trying some of them at a pilot level, I don't think we're there yet to just take away the levels.
Got it. That was useful. Thank you. For me, because there was that piece that I couldn't understand. So at the end of your term, looking back, what are the top 3 things that you hope you to have accomplished?
Top 3. I would like to be known for bringing some transparency to what is happening, and whether or not that is more communication through meetings or the newsletter that's currently used or whatever that might be. I also hope that I'm looked at as someone who made educated, rational decisions that sort of had followed a logical path. And then I would also like to be known as approachable and always acting in the best interests, even when we might not agree or disagree, that I was approachable for a dialogue, and that ultimately those decisions were made with the best interest of Holliston students.
Okay. All right, are you ready to do your 2-minute pitch?
I don't know. I have it.
All right.
All right.
Then we're going to have you just look at the camera.
Okay. Great. All right. Residents of Holliston, I'm excited at the prospect of being a part of our school committee. A huge thank you to those in the community who have been so supportive and positive as I start this campaign. I feel I am uniquely qualified for this position in a way that most people on the committee never will be. My job as a parent is truly my greatest joy, and I continue to learn from my kids on a daily basis. My job as an educator gives me a strong perspective into what teachers go through each day and the challenges that are facing our schools. I want to learn from the wonderful Holliston Public Schools staff, and I want to see what they need from our school committee. I know how to think like a parent and an educator, and I will bring that to the committee. Starting next year, my children will be in each of the Holliston Public Schools. This means that I have a fairly unique perspective across the entire district, and that my focus will not be one-dimensional. Rather, I will be looking out for the short and long-term benefits of all decisions across all schools. I will have the ability to approach an issue in one school with a lens that will allow me to question the effects that will have not only on our schools now, but on future generations of Holliston students. In addition to my years as a parent, I am a proud public school education product, and I have had the opportunity to work as a teacher, both at the high school and, as I mentioned, middle school level right now. Within those levels, I have worked as a classroom teacher and as a member of support staff, which has given me invaluable insight into what happens on both sides of classroom doors. My role as an educator will be an asset to the community and the school committee as I work to strengthen the bridges that are connecting our educators of Holliston to the decision makers. Our schools need these strong relationships between all of our interested parties to bring about positive change for our students. I hope to be instrumental in making those relationships happen. I'm also running for school committee to continue to support the leadership in the town that supports our children and all of our children. We are living in tumultuous times, and I want our children, your children too, to know that schools are a safe place. I want them to know that regardless of race, class, status, gender identity, culture, learning style, I want them to know that school is a safe place where the adults around them have their best interest in mind. I want them to know that Holliston Public Schools sees our kids as they are and that we encourage them to be the best version of themselves. I know firsthand how important it is to have our children know that they have the support of their teachers and their leaders and community members. I want to be a part of that. If you have any questions or want more information about my positions, please reach out on my Floeckher for School Committee Facebook page. I'm excited to use my experiences and knowledge to look forward with Holliston Public Schools. I don't want to recycle old ideas, but instead work on solutions that will promote excellence in education for all of our students in Holliston. Residents of Holliston, I ask for your vote on May 20th. Thank you.
Okay, Tracy, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, And that's it for this interview. Thank you. Thank you for watching Just Thinking. You've done your homework. Now please remember to vote on May 20th. It's important for you, your family, and our community. Thank you.